was building on the lecture. Verses coming daily under pressure. Working on the plot and the scheme. The true stock trademark is at the edge of your dreams. I'm talking one shot for the kill. The breeze cut, freeze up, straight dropping the chills. I'm talking taking over pieces and shares. A ball big sky high. Check the movement is here. Yeah. It's one heart, one shot. Now the future is yours. Go. I'm turning dreams into reality. In the lab with the formula and chemistry. The memories spark and motivate and make the industry shake.
My name is Maria Smith. We are back today with the second installment of the Who Are We Now series. In this discussion, Joe Spano will facilitate a conversation amongst some very strong and insightful Black women. They will dive into several important concepts that I believe will make a lasting impact and initiate change. Now, I'd like to introduce our host, Joe Spano. Joe is an Emmy Award winner who has played Tobias Fornell on the television show NCIS for 17 years. He was also Lieutenant Henry Goldblum on the series Hill Street Blues. Joe graduated from Berkeley in '67 and majored in theater arts. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. And thanks to all of you who are listening to this second episode, second installment of Who Are We Now. Today, we have three outstanding Black athletes from UC Berkeley. Sara East. Sara, wave, would you, so we know who everybody is? And your name's probably in there. Hi, Sara. Sydney Reid.
Hello.
Hello. And Camryn Rogers.
Hi.
Hi. Thanks all of you for joining us. Let's just jump into it. The name of this this project is Who Are We Now? So who are we now, and how do we figure it out? Are we the same people that we spoke a few days ago? Can change happen that quickly? Do you have an identity about yourself? Anybody can just jump in about who are you right now. Do you see yourself as a journey of self-discovery?
I could just jump in if that's okay.
Of course, more than okay.
I'll just introduce myself and say my background. So I'm Sara, and I study at UC Berkeley, class of 22. I'm studying integrated biology, and I grew up in Southern California, and it's been great here at Cal so far, being on the track team, and I feel like my identity has been shaped by that, but it's also shaped by so much more, and I've learned so much about myself since I've been at Cal. And when people tell me when they go off to college and they grow and learn so much, I was like, oh, I'm probably not going to change. I know who I am, but it is really true. When you go to college, you become a completely different person, and you blossom, and you like make a lot of mistakes, but it makes you like into a totally new person. And I feel like just with COVID-19 and everything, it's a very dynamic time in my life. I feel like I've already like had 3 different personality changes just within this like pandemic. I feel like I'm always changing. And I just feel like there's a lot of challenges that come with the times that we're in right now, but it's good to just face that and be introspective.
Thanks, Sara, and thanks for introducing yourself. I probably should have asked you all to do that. That would have been really smart, but that's the way it is. Heat will do that to you. Sydney, let's move to you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. So I was born in Inglewood, California, and since then I moved a lot around. I moved to NorCal, and then I moved back down to SoCal, and I also moved back and forth in between New Mexico. That's where my dad lived. I'm class of 22. My major is integrated biology with a focus in integrative human physiology. I'm on the track team. I'm a long jumper, and my background is coming to Cal. Before I was a sprinter, so I didn't really do much long jumping. Senior year I started because it seemed fun to me. But then things started snowballing, and then I made the state, and then I got recruited, and here I am. Cal was my top choice in institutions. I wanted to stay in California, but I also wanted to get the experience of living in Northern California in the Bay Area. I would say right now in my identity, I would say I'm in a building phase. coming to Cal has allowed me to grow and blossom and explore different aspects of life that I didn't really get to see or experience when I was in Southern California. It really gave me the opportunity to find out who I was and what I really enjoy in life and what makes me happy.
Great. Camryn?
Wow, those are both such lovely introductions. Okay, so yes, I am Camryn. My name is Camryn. I am going into my senior year, which is crazy, but I will be taking an extra year, so I'm also class of 22. I am double majoring in political economy and society and environment, and I'm a hammer thrower on the team. I grew up in Richmond, BC, Canada, so about 30 minutes south of Vancouver, and I came to the States for college to attend UC Berkeley and pursue my passions in both academics and in sport. Yeah, that's kind of my background. I'm sure more will be revealed as we go on.
I'm sure it will. So I'll ask you some things that I found out about you. I'll start with you. What do you get out of slam poetry, and what is it?
Oh my gosh, you know. Yeah, I was on the slam poetry team for a couple of years in my high school career. Oh my gosh, I didn't expect you to.
Those of us who don't know what slam poetry is, why don't you tell us what slam poetry is?
Wow, my gosh! Now that you mention it, it's been a little while since I've attempted to write a piece, but it's so much fun. I mean, you go back and you look at some people's, their poems, their presentations, their performances, and it's just such a dynamic, versatile way of expressing yourself, expressing your thoughts, your emotions, how you feel about certain things. And that's kind of what I got out of it when I was on the team. The last couple of years of high school got a little crazier, so it was harder to take part in that. But yeah, my gosh, that was a surprise there.
Interesting topic. I mean, Sydney, do you have an artistic outlet? Do you do something that you?
I love to cook.
I love to cook.
I love to eat. I'm actually in a food culture class right now. It's probably my favorite class right now, other than anatomy. But it's teaching me about different food cultures, like comfort food, and like how these things merge with politics. And it's really opened my eyes to things that I didn't even think about when eating, or like when looking at a menu. But I always cook. Sundays are like my big cook days, prepare a meal for my roommates, and just try to grow in that aspect of my life. I love to eat, so I should love to cook as well.
And Sarah, you know that for sure because your roommates, right?
Yeah, she cooks delicious meals. I'm so grateful to have Sydney as a roommate because I just get to eat good all the time, and she gets to show me recipes, and it's just great.
She's a good cook as well. I can say that.
Well, I know she had cooking as
not as good as Sydney.
Sarah, you like to go to beaches too, and we're from the same part of Southern California, so I know the beaches. Where do you like to go?
I just recently started going to the Orange County beaches, and those ones are a lot nicer than the ones. I feel like Malibu is okay, but I really like just like anything going south. So San Diego, the coast down there, Laguna. So I'd rather just make the drive further down south.
Are we talking post-COVID or pre-COVID now? Have you been out there? Well, I don't want to give anything away that you know, any surprises.
I've been staying at home a lot more during COVID, but I went to the beach a few times and stayed away from people.
Yeah, I had too. Well, since we're talking about COVID, how has your life changed and your sense of who you are since this came into our experience? It's been a lot of changes, I would think. Well, first of all, you guys are not in classes, right? But you're in school. I mean, you are doing classes, but not physically.
Yeah, we're doing classes on Zoom, which is a huge change between like all the like physical classes. Because as a STEM major, and especially anatomy, it's such a physical class where you have to like rotate things and like pinpoint like on muscles and bones, but I'm looking at these things through a 2D screen, so it's a little bit like more difficult to grasp these concepts. So it's taking a lot more time to study, which it's okay. Like I'm gonna study them anyways, but it's really difficult to grasp some of the concepts.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Now, how's COVID changing your lives, Camryn, Sarah?
Wow. Well, I guess the start of my COVID experience was a little bit different because it was a lot more, what's the word I'm looking for? It was a lot quicker. It wasn't really a sort of slow kind of build to it, kind of like easing into a new routine. It was very sudden because when everything kind of happened that week of March. So on the Monday, which I believe was the 9th of March, Monday was like the last day that we had in-person classes. And then they started announcing that classes were going to be online. And so that in itself was kind of a, whoa, that's a change. And so the Tuesday, first day, we all had our online classes and took a little bit to get used to, but definitely once it had been a while, it was a lot better. You were able to kind of grasp the different learning styles, at least a little faster, which was nice. But that Wednesday, March 11th, I believe it was, I actually came home. I was coming home for the weekend because that was the weekend that our teammates were going to be going to indoor nationals for track. They were, I believe it was in New Mexico, right guys? It was New Mexico that they went to?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. So they went to indoors in New Mexico. It was going to be the last time that I was going to be able to come home really before the end of August because I was planning on staying and training and working towards qualifying for Tokyo. So I came home on that Wednesday. The Thursday, the day after I got home, they announced that the entire spring season had been postponed or canceled. The reason I had come home too was because I had a banquet to go to that got canceled. And then by the end of the weekend, the borders closed. So I couldn't actually go back. And I haven't been back. I've been home for the last 6 months, just kind of waiting. So I feel like I've gotten a little more patient. I hope so. That's one way I feel like I've changed in the past little bit, but it was so strange at first because you're in college, you're training, and you have sort of this life that you develop when you're at school, on campus, with your friends, with your professors, with your coaches, your team. And then to suddenly just be away from that, it felt like I had to find new things kind of to keep me busy at home. I had to find out, or I had to kind of discover how it was that I worked at home, how I operated in this sort of new environment, because I hadn't really had to do classes or do long-term training at home in 3 years. So a lot of change.
Basis up there, didn't you? You had a training basis up there. You the club that you worked with before. So
Yes.
you had, things to do, places to do it. And
Definitely. It had been a little while, but I'm definitely very, very lucky and thankful because I still had my home track and my coach here up in Canada. And it's nice because it was like coming home, and even though it was that sort of transition, there was also sort of an ease falling back into how routine and practices went, which was good. So
good.
I have been able to train fully, whether it be throwing, lifting, the whole bit. And I'm definitely eternally grateful for that. So it's been keeping me sane.
That's good. That's good. Sarah, how about you?
I feel like it was definitely disheartening to like train for 9-10 months and just to be in March and about to start our first meet and outdoor season like the week after, and to hear that we had to get sent home was just very disheartening. And I feel like everyone, especially like athletes in our position that were just about to start season, were very saddened by the news. And it just like, it kind of put me in a rut for a little bit because, like life got switched around. I feel like it was hard for everyone, but definitely looking forward to season all year and doing good in indoors and hitting PRs. Just for outdoor season to be canceled was just disappointing. And something that I'm really grateful for was actually finding a clinic to work at over the summer in Oakland, because I know a lot of people that had their internships canceled. They couldn't study abroad this summer, and like all of their summer internship plans got canceled. So I was like very blessed that my internship was still in person and they didn't move it to online. And I work at a mental health clinic in Oakland called Pathways to Wellness. And it's a clinic that serves underserved people in Oakland. We serve a lot of homeless people, and we provide prescription management and therapy. And I was just an intern there, so I just did a lot of the stuff that doctors didn't want to do, or just help out, make phone calls. But I learned so much about how mental health is really a strong factor in people's lives. And this clinic is funded by the county, and I really feel like they're helping out Oakland and the heart of Oakland, because they see over 400 or 500 patients per year, and they have so many hardworking doctors. And it just opened my eyes up to social services that are very much needed, and how mental health is underfunded. And that was like one thing that really, like, even though track, I was disappointed about that, I was really happy that I found something else to do this summer. And that definitely changed my outlook on the whole COVID thing, to see that I could still help out.
I'm sure all of us are looking for things that will help us, and it sounds like for you, helping others is one of the things that makes us feel like we're doing something, and like we're not being crushed by this, by helping other people. Do any of you others?
Yeah, I just wanted to, COVID really gave everyone the time and space to like really think, because no one was able to go outside really. We had to sit in our homes, and it was either watch Netflix, find a hobby, or just think. So it really forced me to like dive deeper into myself and find out like what I wanted to do with the rest of my life and how I want to proceed in my future. So I always knew I wanted to be in the medical field, but I didn't know if I really like wanted to be, I didn't know direction. I didn't know if I wanted to be a doctor, PT, physician's assistant. So these thoughts I had kind of been like pushing down, like trying to not think about them for a really long time. But COVID forced me to come to terms with this. So I had to like really reflect and like draw out my plan like for after graduating, because like the application process for medical school and physician's assistant school is really long. And junior year is kind of like the time that you start preparing for it. So I had to take the right prerequisite, volunteering hours. And as a student athlete, we already have very little time to do this. So being able to really articulate and plan out like when to do each thing. And COVID kind of threw a really big wrench in a lot of people's plans. So like thankfully I had an internship as well. I worked at a physical therapy clinic, and I was working with a lot of patients, and I learned a lot about like the human body and my body in itself. I'm very interested in the human body. So it was a really great place for me to thrive over the summer and learn a lot. But COVID really like pushed me to like come to face like my thoughts and my fears, and pushed me to overcome those barriers. So I guess it's a positive to come out of this really large negative.
Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great? What can we learn from this? That sort of might be a good opportunity to talk about other things that are going on right now. But before we talk about social changes, I'd like to hear what the three of you feel about the particular situation of being, first of all, Black athletes, then female Black athletes, and then at the University of California. Are there special things that sort of form you as human beings because of your situations, those three situations? And I'm sure there are more, because there's so many things about us that are different or that are uniquely ours. And how do the things that are uniquely ours form us as human beings, or as they may not be ours, but we may be perceived as that, and maybe perceptions of other people. So considering those being an athlete, black athlete, female black athlete here at University of California, how's that shaped you and how's it changing over the time of, in this time, this COVID time?
I can jump in if nobody else wants to. I feel like being a black female athlete at this school has, it puts me into a stereotype, but also there's a lot of people around me that look like me. So I'm really grateful that the team I'm on, which is track and field, there's a lot of other black female athletes that I can relate to. And that just goes into the point where Cal, I found like a community that really supports me. And I want to shout out Chloe Hewlett because she was really a big supporter when I first got here. She made me feel like I had such a strong support system. And I feel like if you're at Cal and you're part of a minority group, like a black female athlete, you have to have that support system and you have to have people in your community that you surround yourself with because it really changes your experience. And I feel like you can always get along with other people and be diverse and be in groups with with every race. But at the end of the day, I feel just deeply fulfilled when I do things in my black community, such as, like the Black Student Committee. What is that?
BSAC, Black Student Athlete.
BSAC, yeah, Black Student Athlete Committee and the Black Student Union. Just going to those meetings just make me feel like I'm part of a really good community, and I don't listen to the stereotypes. I just immerse.
Yeah.
As a black female athlete, that's what a lot of people see already on the surface. So I try not to let that really direct my identity in that sense, because everyone already, when I walk around campus, they already see I'm black, they already see I'm a female, and they already see I'm an athlete because I pretty much walk around in gear all the time. I also don't let it, I don't want it to control how I perceive myself as well, because there's so many other things that build my identity that aren't on the surface. Like I'm in STEM, I'm a first generation born here on my dad's side because he's from Jamaica. So it's that being said, people do see me in that light. So I would say people make assumptions about me. People always think I'm really intimidating when they first meet me. So it's kind of hard to make study groups in class. First day, it's really hard to get people to talk because I usually come in maybe a little bit late because I'm always running for practice usually. Weights, maybe a little bit sandy, but it really affects how I socialize with a lot of individuals. But I would say I have to really grow past that and really come out of my shell to directly interact with other people who maybe don't come from the same background as me. So being a black female student athlete at Cal has really allowed me to grow in my identity, and it has allowed me to help other people grow as well. And the community, it's such a great community here at Cal. I've met some of my best friends here and who really helped shape my identity, like Sara and some of my other roommates. And I'm really grateful to be at this institution. And yeah.
I'm sorry, I had to laugh at the Sandy statement because you were saying the other day that you were surprised that you were doing jumps because you don't really like sand.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of sand. Beaches aren't my vibe, but I had to grow to love it and learn from it. I always have a little sand trail follow me around. My roommates would always be like, where is the sand coming from? I'm so sorry. It came from my jump shoes or my backpack. It follows me everywhere.
Wow. Camryn, how about those three questions? In any direction and any weight you want to put on it?
For sure. I think those were both incredible. You, Sara, and Sydney, you guys are fantastic at answering these questions. It's been very interesting, I think, to be, a Black female student athlete at Cal, because very much for me, growing up in Canada and then coming to Cal, I never really thought of myself as being Black, or at least being half Black. It was always very interesting because where I grew up, there's not a lot of Black people, but it never really was made a big thing. I was never really made aware of the fact that I was Black. And no, it was very interesting because going through COVID the past few months, I feel as if it's, you know, like Sydney mentioned earlier, it's made all of us think a lot about ourselves. And also for me, it's made me really stop and listen to a lot of what my teammates, friends that I've made at Cal here, the stories that they want to share with me, because it's opened my mind up to how many other perspectives and experiences people have. So for me, it was kind of coming to Cal sort of made me think like, wow, like I am a Black female student athlete, but it's also, I think, made me so proud to hold all of these different things in my identity, to come together and have so many different experiences that I've had. And of course, there's always some interesting experiences that you have with some people. Actually, real quick story, one of them, because this was kind of, you know, this was a little thing that happened my freshman year. I had just gotten, I think it had only been 3 weeks that I was in classes, you know, so I was just starting out. But it was one of those moments where it kind of hit me like, okay, this is a thing. So I was talking, no, where was I? I was somewhere in Berkeley, and there was this woman who had this little dog with her, and you know, dogs. So I immediately go over, I'm like, oh my gosh, your dog is precious, you know, so cute, boy or girl? Or, and she said, oh, he's a boy, and it was this cute little black dog. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, like, what's his name? And she was like, oh, Barack. Oh, cool. Oh, cool. And I was like, you know what? Oh, okay. So but I just leaned down and I started petting him. He was so cute, and he was kind of pawing at my leg a little bit. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's adorable. And she looks at me and she goes, yeah, you know, he really loves his colored women. I was like, okay. All right. So I have thankfully not had a lot of experiences like that, but that was kind of the first, and again, thankfully, one of the only kind of moments where it kind of hit me like, wow, like there are people who see me as, you know, who at least take me to be just, they see that I am Black, and for them that's just kind of it, I guess. Like it was such a different kind of thing to just, again, I keep saying it, but it was such an experience that kind of threw me off guard. But that's, yeah, that was one of the moments where I'm so happy to, like Sarah said, have the community of people here at Cal, so that I have so many people to learn from, so that I have so many stories to listen to and understand, because I feel in a way that I'm very lucky growing up where I did, because there's a wide range of acceptance, and there's a lot, it's a very big community where I'm from, because specifically where I live, it's a smaller kind of town.
By big community, what do you mean? You mean your personal community, your family community, the community?
So for me, community is, you know, support system, the people around you. It's the interactions that you have with, it can be anyone really, the people in your family, your friends, the people in your town, city. And coming to Cal, my community has definitely gotten a lot bigger, which I am so blessed to have so many people, you know, to stand beside. But yeah, so for my community at home, yeah, I mean, whether it extends to the town or the track community, it's, yeah, very, very accepting, very welcoming.
You felt like you had one. You had a big community and was very supportive of you in Canada, in Richmond.
Yes.
Always in Richmond?
Pretty much. Pretty much life was always kind of lived in the city, in like my city, Richmond, where I went to school. It's where my mom works. Most of my friends are, from Richmond, so yeah. Still very close to Vancouver, not very long of a little commute, maybe 20-ish minutes, 20-30 minutes, but yeah. And I think that helped too, is having access to a city but also being outside of it. So again, you have your big community, especially being in track, but you also have the smaller community that comes with being in your kind of town. So that was nice. And then of course, coming to Cal, the community just gets bigger with all the people that you meet and the connections that you make. So
Uh, as see, how can I put this? It's become a time for athletes, professional athletes, usually because those are the ones we see, feeling like it's not only their right, but their duty to speak out on things that they think are harmful, unfair, and you all have really strong opinions about what you've experienced and what has happened to you and what has happened to the wider community. How do you feel about this opportunity to speak? Not only opportunity, but as I said before, a need and a duty to speak out about things. Anybody want to take that on and be specific about what you think your responsibility as who you are and mine as who I am to speak truth to power? Wow, that's a loaded phrase, isn't it? But what do you think? Do we speak out? Do we talk and do what we can? Or do we sit back and protect ourselves?
So I feel like as Black people really expect us to speak out, and we should speak out, but they also expect us to kind of like teach a lot of ignorant people, which is not our job. They kind of like expect us like in the comments of social media to be fighting back these people and like telling them what's right, but they have to openly be willing to learn. So a lot of the problem is we're kind of like we're speaking to a wall, and it's like they're not really processing what we're saying because they have to really open their mind. Like there was a post like that Cal Athletics posted, and there was about Jacob Blake, I believe. And in the comments, there were so many ignorant comments. And there's one in particular that like stuck with me. It was like stick to sports. That's what someone said. And it just doesn't make sense how someone's like, this one aspect should be just like left alone, only sports. When the world is such an intersectional place, like I am Black, I'm a woman, so my race and my gender intersect. I'm also an athlete, so those three also intersect as well. But every aspect of our society intersects with something else. So why would athletics not intersect with anything? Like race or gender wise, or anything else, maybe food. But like, they really don't understand that aspect of everything.
I was just gonna chime in and say, we do have a personal, we don't have to personally speak on everything, but I think we have a little bit of a responsibility to speak on what's going on and just be aware of it. And I don't think that every athlete should be responsible for posting stuff and writing articles. We don't have to really do that, but I feel like just talking within your small social circles about the injustices that are happening right now is important. However, I definitely think that major league athletes and everyone that's on TV, the big screens, NBA, NFL, I feel like those athletes have such a huge platform, and it is definitely their responsibility to speak out on it. Maybe not me personally, but I feel like they really can. They have a lot of fans of every color watching them, and they definitely they outrage some people, they bring awareness for some people, but just canceling a game or kneeling just doing that kind of stuff is very important because that's how we show our activism. And I don't know, I can't see how anybody with a conscience in America is just going to sit down and not take a stand while all of this happens. And I know sports are really important, but one game or one meet just to sit down and really like take a stand against what's happening, because I feel like America is really, we're living between two split worlds. Like on the news last week within the past 3 weeks, I saw a 17-year-old boy, Kyle Rittenhouse, kill 2 people at a Black Lives Matter protest. And I saw Jacob Blake get shot 7 times in the back. And I just feel like America is just, there's two diverging worlds. And athletes definitely should stand up and bring awareness, because a lot of these teams are majority Black athletes. So this is definitely part of their community. And if it makes people angered, then it should. That's the point. I think that people should really see how much entertainment they get from Black people. And if you're mad that the game is canceled, or you're sitting here saying stick to athletics, think about yourself and think about how these are real people that are facing this brutality by police and just like overall systemic racism.
Yeah, definitely. And people want to place like these major league athletes into like a box and only like think of them in that way. But they have these huge platforms that they built off of their hard work and that they put into their bodies and into their craft. So they should be able to speak freely on whatever topic they want, politically, socially, anything, because they worked for that fan base. They worked for their huge platform. And when people try to control them, it really doesn't make any sense in that aspect, because it's free speech. We live in America. The main thing people talk about is their right to free speech. So you can be angered about it, but don't try to control them in their sport, in their craft, or what they feel like is right.
You know, trying to read and hear more of the stories shared on social media the past few months. You know, people, I remember seeing this one kind of post or this one caption that someone wrote where it said, you know, people always get angry. We march, we kneel, we have speeches, we cancel games, and people still get angry. There's never going to be a way that people protest that everyone will kind of be happy with. And as a professional athlete, when you have worked so hard for so many years to achieve your athletic goals and your professionalism, and that is the one way you feel like you can make a statement and have people understand the life that you've lived in order to get there, then, you know, it's very understanding of why people and why so many professional athletes have chosen to do it in the way that they've done it, where they've postponed, canceled games, where they're kneeling, where they're taking more stances on their platforms. You know, like it forces you to listen, especially because, and as one thing I definitely noticed coming here and being a student athlete, you know, sports in the States is very much an industry. People invest their time, their emotions into sports, and it's something that millions upon millions of Americans, they watch, they pay attention to. They have their favorite players, they have their favorite teams, and they support them in their sports and in their athletic endeavors. And then these athletes come off the court, off the field, and all of a sudden it's like that support just disappears. You know, you can't have it both ways where you're choosing when and how to support someone. You know, you can't just support them in their athletic endeavors and then choose to look the other way when they're not competing and they're living their day-to-day lives and experiencing these injustices.
Another thing it does, at least for me, I'm not a super fan, but I know all about it. It gives me courage. Because sometimes it is, as you well know, it's risky to say what you think. It's risky to to have an opinion that is not the common opinion or is not the opinion of the people that you were with at the time. But to see people like this making a stand and saying something and having the courage to do it because they're risking too, then it gives us more courage than we might have had. So I really thank them for doing that. But we're already there. We're already at what the next question was going to be, and that's how has the social changes that have been happening, hopefully, the good ones, since this whole, well, we're going to call it Black Lives Matter because that's the rubric that most of us know it under, but it, of course, it includes a lot of other names and a lot of other organizations and a lot of other people who are working for social change right now as a result of the violence that's been happening. So what do you think, how does that impact your life and your sense of yourself and your daily lives? And do you think it is moving towards a situation which is more just and less violent?
I feel like things are changing slowly in the right direction. However, there's a lot of times that we're just going back and we're repeating our history. And in America, progress is really hard with all of the institutionalized, just every system is put in, a lot of systems are put in place in America that are just inherently racist or discriminatory. And just the foundation of this country was just built kind of terribly. And that's why I feel like it's hard to really get real change and go in the right direction, because we can say that we're improving, but there's still lots of brutality going on right now. And it's hard to be optimistic with what's happening when we're really, like, a lot of Black people are just, you know, we're tired of what's happening, and we're tired of, you know, getting killed at violent and peaceful protests. Like, no matter what Black people do, it seems like history just keeps repeating itself, especially in America. And I thought Camryn had like a really good point, which she talked about how like sports fanatics, they can like objectify athletes and praise them a lot and support them on the field, but when they walk off the field, they don't support them. And I just thought that was a good point, because I feel like I didn't realize that there's so many fans of sports. Like, when I look at the comment sections of sports pages raising awareness, I didn't realize how many of the fans weren't with the Black Lives Matter movement or weren't supporting, you know, their actual life. And I don't understand how people could objectify a person when they're going through all this stuff. And at first I thought, you know, change is happening. Colin Kaepernick, he took a kneel, he started, you know, revolution a little bit. But you see all these angry fans, and it's just a little disheartening to see where America's mind is at.
Yeah, like definitely, like it's a problem that we need to like solve at the root, because the foundation of America was like built on like slavery and other things that are wrong. So you need to really step back and take a look at America and figure out the problem from the base. Like, people, you don't want to. If you want to cut down a tree, you wouldn't cut it from the tips of its leaves. You have to cut it from the root. It's also going back to the idea like of like these cops that are killing African Americans and Black people. They're like, oh, it's just like just one bad apple in the bunch. But I remember I saw a quote somewhere. It's like talking about pilots. You wouldn't be like, oh, there's one bad pilot, one bad apple in the bunch. He sometimes doesn't land the plane. Like, it's something that the institution, like the police, it should not have any bad apples. That is something that should not have problems, because you're dealing with people and having their lives in your hands. Like, you're supposed to be helping the community, not hurting the community. So it's like you need to rebuild this one aspect. And people talking about defunding the police and this aspect, I wouldn't say they're wrong. I definitely believe they're right, because there's so many funds being funneled into this institution, the police station. Like, what police station needs $65 million when teachers are having to pay for colored pencils for all their students, when they shouldn't have to, because education should not cost that much in that sense, because kids need this education to grow and to be people in the future and to help our country.
I had the pleasure of speaking with Cal's first female hammer thrower about a month or two back. First off, I just want to say that she's awesome. And I think she was on the team around the year 1990, 1991. Don't quote me on that year. But she's Black, and she and I were discussing kind of the social political unrest, everything happening with BLM at the moment. And I asked her, like, just what is your take? Like, how do you see things happening right now? And she said, you know what, when you think about it, things right now, everything happening it feels very much kind of like it did in the 60s. With, civil rights movement and everything happening then. That definitely set the stage. Of course it did. It started the kind of movements that we see now, which is incredible. And she was saying, right now we're at a spot where either, we have all this momentum coming forward. We have all of these protests. We have, people speaking their minds, talking about their experiences and their stories, and a really big difference now compared to then is now we have technology. There's so many more people who are seeing concrete evidence of these things happening. Hence, of course, all of the tragic and videos and photos that have come out in the past few months of things happening, like with Jacob Blake, with George Floyd, with yes. So, but she says, I'm scared of history repeating itself, because if everything, like what will it take? What will it take for people to listen? What will it take for things to move forward where we finally change these institutionalized programs and the way things are just set in how the states operates? Like what will it take? Because we've already seen how much has happened, that has led up to the protest and the movement that has, shaped the way that BLM has taken place this year in 2020 since COVID happened, of course. But she says, what will it take to get, to that next level? And it made me think, it's hard to try and think of, what can we change right now? Like what is going to bring us there? What's going to bring everyone together so we can really have a conversation, so that we can change these rules, so we can change these policies, so we can change the way people think, because at the end of the day, we have to change the mindsets of people. And it really shouldn't seem like that difficult of a thing to do, because we're talking about freedom. We're talking about rights. We're talking about equality. Everyone should have that right. And yet it's 2020 and millions of people still don't. So.
As you're speaking, I'm going over in my mind what seems to be at least part of the problem. And what occurs to me is fear. I've heard a lot of, besides that being tired, I've heard a lot from the Black community about being just tired of the same old stuff, and just living with it for so long exhausts you. And I was thinking about myself, and I was thinking about what I said a second ago about being glad that Kaepernick took a knee and everything like that people are doing right now. And how it allays my fear, takes part of my fear away. It gives me courage, which is the other side of fear, right? I mean, if you can be afraid, but if you have courage, you can do something about it. And it's not being afraid, it's just acting anyway. So I'm wondering about that. I want to hear from you about just trying to work with our fear. And part of it is, I suppose I want to move on into, not move on, but include in this how we, whether church or other kinds of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a simple word. Whether we have a formal religion or not, or just spiritual practices or some way to deal outside of the political and the sports and everything we concretely use to identify ourselves, or people use to identify us from outside. Do you have those kinds of resources? And are they helpful in what way?
I'll speak on this first. So your question is, do we have like church or religion or something of that nature that brings us healing in some way? So I am Catholic. My mom and I are both Catholic, and baptized, did the whole process. But she and I we don't really practice a whole lot. And for her and I, the thing that's brought us, because she and I have both been through ups and downs, and I don't know if I should mention now. My mom's a single parent, and she's white, and in a lot of ways, that's changed the way that I view the world and the way that I see things. Because as much as I've gone or had experiences and gone through things, in a lot of ways, with her being my mom, she has too, and she's my rock. she's my everything. I love my mom. She's done everything, and I could never thank her or repay her for the sacrifices that she's made. But her and I, we've gone through things together, and what's really brought us through and brought us healing is believing in the goodness of other people. And for her and I think she likes to say that we're more spiritual people, but I think when she says that, she means more, we believe in the goodness of others. We believe in people's ability to bring happiness, bring healing, bring understanding, bring empathy. And through that, we build our connections. Through that, we're able to heal in a lot of ways ourselves, because we have that community. Like I was mentioning before, that's for me why community is so important, why support systems are so important, because for her and I, they've been everything. When I was, I think, about 12, we lost our home, and for about a year we were homeless. We had to sleep on people's couches. We slept in our car, but at the end of the day, it was our friends and family who pulled through and were able to give us a roof over our heads and, make sure we had food in our bellies, So for her and I, it's definitely other people. And as much as we do believe in the power of religion and what joy and understanding and healing it can give other people, for us, it was always those people that were able to provide us with the support that, we had. So that's what I'm very thankful for. And that's one thing that has given me that peace of mind and that confidence over the years.
I don't have that much to speak on this point, but I really like all the things Camryn highlighted. You really said that beautifully, and just combining religion and just faith in good people, But my personal experiences is that I grew up a non-denominational Christian, and I went to a Catholic middle school and high school, so I've definitely been surrounded by religion, but I really identify as a non-denominational Christian, like my family, what my parents raised me to be. And I feel like that's like, it's not really the biggest part of my life, but I definitely keep it close because that's what my parents taught me. And they just taught me to keep God close and everything. But I feel like just in these times, we need some sort of divine just way to escape, whether it be spirituality or meditation or praying to God of your religion. I'm not going to tell anyone what to do because I respect every way that people like to escape and like to be spiritual. But for me, it's really just like my faith in God and also a lot of meditation. That's just like the way that I'm spiritual, but it doesn't even have to be meditation. I feel like everyone can find some sort of divinity in anything, like things they like doing, helping other people, or just hanging out with their friends. And I feel like everyone has that little way to escape, and you have to, in these hard times, you have to find like that thing that works for you.
The only thing that we didn't cover, and actually this is a good place maybe to end it, but there's one thing that we didn't cover, and that's sort of the comparison between being a female athlete as opposed to a male athlete. I mean, this is your life. You hope to have this be at least an important part of your life. I mean, you move on to be a physiologist or, whatever you learn in school and really fulfills you, because you're going to have a life after athletics, right? I mean, and do you feel that you're at a disadvantage or that female athletes are at a disadvantage compared to male athletes? Does that occur to you or bother you, or are there changes that you would like to see? I guess that's the best way of phrasing it, rather than bother or notice, or maybe it's not a big thing. I mean, is there any particular feeling about that? What would you like to see changed in college athletics, vis-a-vis male and female athletes, if anything?
Like, I wouldn't say it directly affects me. I don't really see it in that aspect, but I do believe it strengthened me in a way. There are certain, like the WNBA and the NBA, same sport, it's just the only difference is gender. And the NBA, there's more views, they have paid more, and they have the same amount of skill as women do, but the women are paid significantly less, even though they have the same skill in the same sport. Only thing different is their gender. So I do believe women need more representation and need to be given more credit that is due, because they are just as strong, go through the exact same thing. They go through college, and they just need to be compensated the same way and respected the same way men are. Because in some sports, I would say women's soccer as well, our U.S. soccer team on the women's side is phenomenal, but they don't get the same respect. Like, people love them, but on the like financial side, they're not compensated the same as men are. So it comes down to respect in that sense.
Do you think that college athletes should be paid if there's money in the sport?
I believe college athletes should be paid. They make so much money for the institution. They draw in so many fans. Like football, they bring in so much money here. They fund so many aspects of life at Cal. But without them, things start to break down. Like, we had to have conversations in track and field about gear and other things because money's not flowing in the same due to COVID, because football's down and also basketball. So if they're able to control so much on campus, they should be compensated the same.
I definitely agree with that. I feel like just if you come from any background, if you're making that much of an impact on campus, like Sydney said, you should be paid because you're really valuable. And I know that the football players and like basketball players, they get per diem and stuff like that. And I feel like that's a really good step because it's almost like they're getting paid and they can like collect some money off over the side that they don't use on food or housing. But if there's more funds for it, then, like, why not?
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting conversation to have. And I say that because the past year, I've been very lucky to be Cal's rep on this group called the SALT Committee, and now Kylie Crocker on our basketball team's also on it, and she's amazing. But the SALT Committee, the Student Athlete Leadership Team, we meet every couple weeks or so, and we talk about a lot of important issues happening within the Pac-12 or the NCAA as a whole. And there's always a couple reps from each Pac-12 school because it's Pac-12 focused. And so we've gone over things like mental health initiatives. We've talked about, big programs being implemented throughout the Pac-12. But one recurring conversation we keep having is about NIL, name, image, and likeness, and a student athlete's rights to that. Because, when you become a student athlete and you sign your contract, you're essentially saying, all right, here's my NIL, take it. You don't have it anymore. And I think that student athletes being paid, there's a lot that can be developed within that realm. There's a lot that we have to talk about, the form in which it would happen, because a lot of it, the payment would be through other parties, but it's like, Cal, for an example, we're an Under Armour school. What if, tomorrow Nike contacts you, Sara, and says, all right, we're going to sponsor you, but you have to wear our gear. It's things like that. Or it's, okay, you can get a certain amount of money from this company, but do you get it now? Should be put into a fund where you can receive it after. Because there are student athletes who get into a position where it can be hard to financially support yourself through college, and that it can be in little things like whether or not you have enough money every month to get food, or pay rent. And so there's a lot of conversations going on about this right now. I think that, Sydney and Sarah have already brought up some good points about how, there's a lot of student athletes, I guess, NIL, that schools are able to use to promote their athletic programs and to bring in more money and to have more people attend games, competitions, championships. So I definitely think that there should be some form of what's the word I'm looking for? Like financial compensation. It's just in the way that it happens is what there's a lot of debate about, as you can imagine. So there's a lot to talk about, but I definitely think that we're on the right path in even bringing it up, and beginning to have these conversations about it. So I think it was the Senate bill SB 206 that Governor Newsom signed. I think we're going to be able to have NIL, like student athletes have the rights to their NIL starting in 2022, 2023. So there is quite a bit of time, but I think in Florida, they're trying to get this implemented real quick, like beginning next year. Yeah. And so that's forced a lot of other states and a lot of other conferences to kind of step back and just go, "Ooh, okay, we're going to be discussing this a lot and we better figure these things out quick." But there definitely should be some sort of compensation for that, or at least you should be able to have the right to accept things like that.
And on that note, I was just going back to catch up something we didn't talk about. I just like to say thank you all for joining in this conversation. It's been great. It's been great for me. And I hope it will be useful to a lot of other people. In fact, I don't doubt that it will be. So thank you all. Thank you, Camryn, Sara, Sydney, for joining us. And here's Maria to take us out. Maria, thank you.
Oh, no, thank you guys. And I want to thank Sara, Camryn, Sydney, and Joe for your transparency and engaging in this discussion today. It was amazing hearing you guys speak and share your thoughts. So thank you all again. And with that, for everyone else, please visit CAA's website for updates and stay tuned for the next edition of the Who Are We Now series.